Good day everyone, and welcome back to Quest for Alpha. In my previous videos, I walked you through my trading framework. I talked about the two filters that define my edge, and I described how someone balancing a full-time job, family, life outside work can still find the time to do this, because it is a pretty straightforward process and it does not really take too much time. Today what I'd like to do is I'd like to take you all behind the scenes to show you how some of the setups that I have looked at in the past are performing, and I also want to share some of the new setups that I'm looking at in the weeks to come. Okay, so the first one on the list is Omnicom Group, OMC. This is one of the largest marketing and communication networks. It is a company that owns a lot of different agencies, and it's behind some of the largest global brands. This company is a pretty good cash flowing business, and its performance really speeds up when the ads are picking up. So let's take a look at why I decided to invest in the Omnicom Group, ticker OMC. If we go to the monthly time chart, if you remember, we are making sure that the trend is upward, and we get that from following our 3 EMA indicator, so the 10, the 100, and the 200. As we can see, the 10 is above the 100, the 100 is above the 200. This tells us that it's at an uptrend. We also see a pretty significant pullback, which is always a good thing. What we want to make sure is that the pullback actually happens in a proper demand zone. And in this case, we did see a good demand zone right over here, defined by this bearish candle. Why is this a good demand zone? Because we have a pretty explosive bullish move, multiple large consecutive candles that have also taken out a previous high over here. When we take a look at that, when we consider taking a previous high, we do want to make sure that the price actually closes above the previous high, as opposed to on this candle here. This would have been sufficient for me, but it was the next candle that actually closed above the previous high that was used to confirm the demand zone. Once that happened, I went into the daily time frame, and I observed the chart. I observed the price action. You can see here the price reached the zone and it bounced off, and the next steps that we were waiting for was for the price to rise above the 200 EMA. That never really happened. It did consolidate here, so it would have been a great setup if the price had decided to come above it. Instead, it actually dropped down. It had a little bit of consolidation in this area, and then the price not only broke the 200 EMA, but also took over the previous consolidation. This to me was a strong indication that I can enter the trade. What you can see here is that the price actually pulled down, tried to go higher, pulled down, tried to go above it, and dropped significantly last week, and it's actually consolidating here. At this point, this is one of those trades that it did not go straight up. It actually pulled down very close to where my stop limit is. If the price in the following week does not show any indication that it wants to go higher, and instead it starts breaking down, I'll probably consider exiting this trade setup. So unfortunately, things like this happen. This is the cost of trading the markets. Some setups will work out great, others may not, but ultimately what's important that you do get more setups to work out as opposed to not work out. And as we as I will be discussing in other videos as well, what is also very important, at least for the strategy that I'm trying to follow, is that the risk to reward is not 1-to-1, but it's something more like 1-to-2 or 1-to-3. Okay, so let's take a look at the second stock. This is Equinox. This is a company that runs the digital backbone of the internet. This is where data centers, where cloud providers, financial systems, and enterprises interconnect. Think of it as the infrastructure play behind every online transaction. If we look at on the monthly time chart, where again our first step is to make sure that we're in an uptrend, and we can see that the 10 is above the 100, 100 is above the 200, which is great. This is our confirmation for an uptrend. We also see a significant pullback. What we want to make sure is that that pullback happens to be in a good demand zone, and our demand zone is defined by this less bearish candle over here. We draw the zone. Why is that? Because we do have consecutively strong bullish candles. Perhaps this was not the strongest bullish candle, but we can see that the following candle closed right above the previous maximum here, closed above the previous high, and this was considered a valid zone for those two reasons. At that point, what I did is I went down to the lower time frame, to the daily chart, and I was observing the price action. As you can see, the price action, it came down here at some point, it went above, it did consolidate here. I was not involved in this during this time. I did not pay attention to this specific stock. We can see that the price went above and then dropped below. Since then, it was ranging. It tried to come right above the 200 EMA, and it consolidated. It is at this point when I saw the consolidation and I saw that the price reached above the consolidation with this candle over here, that I decided to enter the trade. As you can see, the very next few days, the last week, price came down and then it pulled up. Right now we are pretty much around break even. We are going to monitor the following week and we are going to see how the stock is performing. Those are really the only open trades that I have following this method, this approach, this strategy. The following are things that I'm looking at in the weeks to come. Okay, the first one on the list happens to be Dover Corporation, which is an industrial powerhouse that few people really talk about. This is a company that makes pumps, that makes compressors and automation systems that are used across energy, food, and the pharma industry. If we look at it on the monthly time frame, we can see that this is in a clear uptrend. We also see that there was a significant pullback to a demand zone. Why was this a good demand zone? It was because we had 2, 3, 4 consecutive pretty strong bullish candles that have taken out a previous high. So right there, and a little bit right over here. The price came down to the zone. Once at the zone, we go down to a lower time frame, such as the daily. Discuss this already. We can see that the price reached the zone, bounced above the zone. There was a consolidation here, but the price never really came above. I was looking at it somewhere here. I mean, this is actually a future setup, so I'm not really interested at what the price really did here in the back. I'm more interested in what is happening today. And what is happening today is that the price had actually come above the 200 EMA and it's forming some sort of consolidation. So depending on what happens in the next few days or maybe next few weeks, if the price decides to depart this zone, then that is where I would be interested in taking a trade. And as I mentioned previously, I would be looking for something that is at least 2 to 1 and perhaps even greater than that. The next one on the list is Waters Corporation. Waters Corporation is a company that builds precision instruments that are used in the biotech and pharmaceutical labs. Whenever there is a drug or whenever there is a drug discovery or diagnostics role, Waters is in the middle of it. If we take a look at this first on the monthly time chart, we can see that it's in a clear uptrend. Again, the 10 above the 100, the 100 above the 200. Then we're looking for some zones. We see that the price actually reached down and started to bounce up. It came very, very, very close to this specific zone. It barely touched it. This is an interesting one. I'm not sure if I will play this one, but for the time being, let's take a look at it. Why is this a good zone? Because it had very strong two candles here that took out a previous high that was formed, and then we see that the price came down, tried to bounce up. If you look at the daily chart, you can see how the price actually barely touched the demand zone and started to rally up. It actually came right above the 200 EMA, right over here, and then it started to consolidate. So this to me is a consolidation. It broke above. Now, because I saw this chart just yesterday, I saw that the price went above, it came down, and it's trying to go a little bit higher. So the question right now, we're going to speculate. Are we going to expect something like this to happen? And if we do decide to enter, we will need to enter it this way. This is almost like a 9% gain, so we will be looking for at least 18% gain on our investment for a 2 to 1. So this is an interesting one. I may consider entering this one this coming week. We shall see how the price is going to react on Monday before making that decision. But unfortunately, I did not take a look at this stock on October 20th when it broke out of this consolidation. Okay, let's move on to the next one on the list, which is Avery Dennison. This is a company that makes labels, adhesives, packaging material. It's pretty much used everywhere, from clothing tags, shipping label, and it's a hidden play in the e-commerce market and the retail trends. But it has been showing to have a very strong price action. You can see on the monthly chart, it has been rolling up, and then at some point it came down a little bit, and it came down to a pretty strong demand zone. I would say this is a strong demand zone because there were pretty strong bullish candles here. This is the bearish candle right before the bullish move up. We see that the price had come here before, bounced, came back again, and is trying to bounce once more. Now, when you have stocks that are at all-time highs, sometimes they're unable to take out previous highs, so they just reach to new highs, and in that case that's still a zone as long as the first of the two criteria is met, and that is they're strong bullish candles, consecutive bullish candles that are forming. If we look at on the daily chart, we can see that the price came into the zone, bounced off of the zone. It started to consolidate here, but it never broke out of the 200 EMA. And then we saw came back to the zone, bounced off, but there is really no consolidation here. So for me right now, the confirmation is not confirmed really. This confirmation is not valid yet. Because there is an absence of consolidation, and that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm waiting to see happen. Maybe something like this ends up happening, and then the price rallies above it. That could be something that I would be interested in pursuing. But at this very moment, we are going to wait on the sidelines. We will not participate here. Let's take a look at Salesforce next. Salesforce is a pretty large company. Most people know about it. It's a SaaS business. It's a CRM software. It helps business manage customer sales and analytics. This one is also in an uptrend, very clear uptrend, as you can see, 10 above 100, 100 below the 200, and we can see that the price actually came down a bit. Where did it come down to? It came down to a demand zone. That demand zone is defined by the last bearish candle, so right there. It's a strong one because there are 3 consecutive bullish candles that have taken out a previous high. What we wait for is the price to come down. That's where it is. It is in the zone right now, and we're going to the daily time frame to see what's happening. And if you take a look at the daily time frame, the price did try to go up at the 200 EMA. There was no consolidation, came down, and now it is consolidating in this region. So what we are waiting for, ideally, for the price to rally up above this consolidation here, so that we can hopefully speculate on a move that will continue to rally upwards. Right now there is no action item. I think this may happen in this coming week or maybe the week afterwards, but it's an interesting setup that is being formed. Next one on the list happens to be HP, Hewlett Packard. I mean, these guys make printers, computers. You definitely know about this business already. You can see that it has been in an uptrend. It's not the cleanest uptrend, but according to our indicator, this can be considered an uptrend because the 10 is above the 100 and the 100 is above the 200. We also see that the price had come down to a demand zone. This is that demand zone that was formed, which had pretty strong bullish candles that took out the previous high. Then we follow the steps. We go and we are waiting for a confirmation. The confirmation was never formed, hasn't formed just yet. We can see that the price came above over here, tried to kind of consolidate. This is not a very strong consolidation. It's all over the place. Came down. There was some sort of consolidation here in a breakout. This consolidation is a little bit too far from the 200 EMA, and because I was just looking at this just now, this is the consolidation I'm interested in looking at and evaluating when the time comes, whether this is going to become valid or not. So if the price ever comes above it here, then I'll be probably interested in buying Hewlett Packard. If the price actually decides to come down here, then we'll have to wait longer and evaluate the price action when the time comes. We have two more, which are Merck. Merck is a pharmaceutical giant. It has a very strong R&D, reliable dividends. It's a pretty large company, especially in the pharma space that most people know about. That one has been performing very well over the past years. You can see that it continues to be in an uptrend, although it had seen a pretty large drop since May of 2024. It actually came here to a specific, so let us actually take a look at it. Where is the zone here? Do we have a good valid zone? And one could argue that maybe this is a good zone here, and maybe there are pretty strong bullish candles, but as you can see here, this bullish candle, while it closed right above this previous high, it did not proceed much higher than that. It actually kind of like stopped there, consolidated, and dropped below. So to me, that is not the strongest demand zone, but it's an interesting setup, at least to go through and analyze right now. I would not be interested in looking at this as a valid zone, but I am interested at least in showing you guys about what is happening here on the daily time frame. So granted that the zone was a good one, you would wait for the price to go above the 200 EMA, which occurred over here. And right now, even though this happened, is there any consolidation that you see? And honestly, I do not see any consolidation before this move occurred. So something like this could happen here. Where some sort of consolidation is being formed. And then if the price goes above the consolidation and takes out the previous high, then maybe this happens to be a pretty good setup for someone to participate in. Following this, the last one on the list that I'm looking at is Vertex. Vertex is also a pretty big pharmaceutical or biotech company. They're in the genetic and rare disease treatment space. If we take a look at this one, is in a clear uptrend. The price had pulls back to a demand zone. You can see that this is a good demand zone because there are pretty strong candles that were formed, and they took a previous high, and after going into the daily time chart, we can see that the price had reached the zone and it's on its way above the 200 EMA. While that has not happened, we do see some sort of consolidation being formed here. So what we expect to see is something like this. If this happens, then we could potentially consider this as a solid buy. If you guys are interested in seeing more of this content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to this channel. With that, I'd like to thank you all for your attention. I hope you guys learned something new and you were able to see pretty clearly what my approach looks like behind the scene to analyzing the markets and participating all together. Thank you and have a great day.